In ancient China during the Warring States period, mass executions became a strategic tool. One of the most horrifying incidents occurred after the Battle of Changping. Over 400,000 surrendered soldiers were buried alive on orders of General Bai Kai. These men had already laid down their weapons. They were unarmed, starving, and exhausted. Instead of imprisonment or ransom, they were marched to pits and buried layer by layer. The earth moved for days as they suffocated. This was done not in secret but deliberately to eliminate future resistance and erase an entire generation of enemy soldiers. Ancient Rome, often admired for law and civilization, committed acts that would today be considered genocide. When the Roman general Julius Caesar conquered Gaul, he wrote detailed accounts of his campaigns. In them, he openly admitted to the slaughter of entire tribes, including women and children. Villages were burned with people still inside. Captured civilians were sold into slavery by the hundreds of thousands. In one campaign, Caesar ordered the hands cut off living prisoners so they could serve as walking warnings to others. These actions were praised in Rome as signs of strength and leadership. In Carthage, child sacrifice was practiced during times of war and crisis. Archaeological evidence suggests that infants were burned alive as offerings to appease gods for victory. These were not enemy children, but their own. Parents were told that sacrificing their child was an honor and a necessity. The screams of burning infants echoed through temples while priests beat drums to drown out the sound. This was war turned inward, where fear and belief justified the unthinkable. The ancient Greeks, celebrated as the fathers of democracy, committed atrocities that shattered their own ideals. During the Peloponnesian War, Athens captured the island of Melos. When the city refused to surrender, Athens executed all adult men and sold the women and children into slavery. This was not a moment of chaos, but a calculated decision debated calmly by Athenian leaders. Power, they concluded, mattered more than justice. Their own historians recorded it without apology. In ancient India, war manuals described rules of battle, but reality was far darker. After major victories, defeated cities were often subjected to mass rape, enslavement, and execution. In some cases, prisoners were trampled by elephants trained to crush bones slowly. These executions were performed publicly, turning death into entertainment and warning. The use of animals to kill humans was designed to humiliate victims beyond death. The Mongol invasions remain among the most devastating in human history. Cities that resisted were completely annihilated. At Nishapur, after a Mongol general was killed, the entire population was executed, including animals. Skulls were stacked into pyramids taller than buildings. Rivers reportedly ran red with blood. Survivors were forced to count the dead before being killed themselves. These acts were not spontaneous rage. They were systematic, efficient, and repeated across continents. In ancient Egypt, prisoners of war were sometimes executed en masse as offerings to gods. Reliefs show pharaohs holding rows of severed hands or heads, trophies of slaughter. Entire populations were enslaved, branded, and worked to death in mines and quarries. Rebellion meant collective punishment. Villages disappeared from records entirely, as if they had never existed. The Aztec Empire practiced ritual warfare where captured enemies were sacrificed on temple altars. Hearts were cut out while victims were still alive. Bodies were thrown down stone steps as crowds cheered. While often described as religious, these sacrifices were also political tools, meant to intimidate rivals and reinforce dominance. War was not just about land, but about feeding gods with human blood. What makes these crimes even more disturbing is that they were often celebrated. Kings commissioned art showing their cruelty. Poets wrote verses praising mass death. Victors returned home as heroes, not criminals. There were no trials, no apologies, no justice for the dead. History was written by those who committed the violence, and they made sure their actions were remembered as greatness. Yet beneath these ancient records are the silent voices of millions who suffered without names. Farmers burned alive in their homes, children dragged into slavery, soldiers begging for mercy that never came. Ancient war was total war, where survival depended on absolute submission or total destruction. As we look back on these shocking war crimes, it becomes clear that civilization did not begin with kindness. It began with power. The laws we value today were born from centuries of bloodshed, pain, and horror. Remembering these crimes is not about glorifying violence, but about understanding how far humanity has come and how easily it can fall back. If these stories made you uncomfortable, they should. History is not meant to be comforting. It is meant to teach, to warn, and to remind us that the line between civilization and barbarism has always been thin. Thank you for watching, and if you want